Driven by a lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Psychic Solutions Podcast. I am Dr. Linda Salvin, a metaphysician. And today I have a very good friend of mine. It's not that we see each other all the time, and you have people in your life that come and go and they pop up, or you have that kind of connection or friendship that you don't have to speak for months, pick up the phone and you pick up where you left off. This is one of those people that I've known 20 years, maybe. He'll help me figure it out. Both of us don't remember because our memories are old. But today's conversation with David Bernstein is going to be about media, society, and communication, because David's been in radio all his life, and you're going to hear stories about broadcasting. But to me, why I brought him on the show is he's been very instrumental in my career the last 20 plus years. And I, as you know, I took a trip a few weeks ago, and I went to a conference in New York, and David is responsible for that because I wasn't going to go to this thing, and it's the top of the cream of the crop of the radio industry, and I met people that I never dreamed. No, I only dreamt of meeting, but it's more than that, because David, his wife, and I go back, and he has had readings with me. He's done candles when his brother-in-law was ill. He believes in what I do. He understands that I'm not your typical talk show host, but I am a metaphysician. I am a psychic. I can be funny, but I'm honest, I'm real. And I'm going to bring on David because he's like part of my family. I just adore this man, and you will too. David Bernstein, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I don't know if I can live up to that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We go way back. And I don't even know where to start, but I want you to tell people your background in radio broadcasting and your trip through the microphone and teaching. But there's also a spiritual side to you that understands this, what some people think is the woo-woo, but it's real. And
it's real.
Yeah, even at the convention, there was an attorney there, and I said, "Oh, you've got some books coming out." And she looked at me, "Well, how'd you know that?" I said, "I'm a psychic." I'm standing right next to David, and David had a straight face. And she said, "What?" I said, "You're going to have a couple of books," because I'm writing. I said, "I know, you've got 3 books coming." She said, "I'm on the first, but there might be more." I said, "I know that." She turned to David and said, "She real?" David goes, She's the real thing. Just flatline, not like joking. Yeah, people, I'm the legitimate thing, and you know it. But let's hear it from David. Now, David comes from an industry that's a little more conservative in areas, very political at times. And then there's the fun part. Yeah, we don't have to go there. How'd you fall into radio? Go ahead.
I always followed the fun part. I had very little interest in politics. As a teenager, I had no clue what politics, I didn't even know what the word meant. As a college student, I started becoming aware of things that were going on in the world, but never thought I had any role in it. I'm one of the peons that just moves along like everybody else. And my dream of being on the radio was simply a dream that started at age 12. Wow. It didn't change at 16. It didn't change at 19. And it didn't change at 21. So all I wanted to do was work at my college radio station. That was the goal. Once I got into the college radio station, and by the way, I got fired from the college radio station by the program director, who told me, "I'm going to do you a favor and I'm going to kick you out, and you will never ever work in this business again because you're no good. So it's like, I'm really doing you a favor. One day you'll thank me." And I'm thinking, Gee, thank you. That really doesn't feel very
Stevie
good.
Wonder was said the same thing in 6th grade, that he had no musical talent.
Yeah,
Stevie
there
Wonder.
you go. I don't even know I don't think he did it to be mean. I'm going to guess he did it because he really didn't see any talent there. And that's okay, because we all blossom at a different time. And my goal, I never had a goal of being famous. I never wanted to be famous. In fact, I kind of like my interest in radio was because nobody can see you, and then nobody will know who you are when your show is over. You leave, and you're just another guy on the street. So I liked the idea of being anonymous. And I did radio in college. I was even though I got a 50-year career out of it, that's not the big thing I got out of it. I didn't expect that. What I expected was to meet a lovely young lady who worked at the radio station, marry her, and we're still married. That's what I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I enjoy radio, enjoy my career, but I'm happy
But
that
you
I
met
lived.
Debbie. You found your
Yeah, I met
soulmate.
Debbie. She worked at
You
the radio
found your
station.
soulmate. Soulmates live, love, and work together. When you're in the right place at the right time, the love will be brought together in sync. And I met Debbie finally after talking all these years. Finally met Debbie. Spoke to her briefly last night. Enjoy the fruit. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm finally eating healthy.
Yeah, after all this time, I'll teach you some tricks. David, you have this experience. You've been on radio, you've been a head of networks, you've been a programmer, you teach at a university. You have been broad all over the industry. People know your name everywhere. I spoke to Josh Lang today. I said, I'm having David on the show today. And so I said, I'm going to drop your name. He goes, oh, I don't know. I said, well, I will. So I just did. So, I'm learning and meeting new people always. I did speak to Michael last week. Thank you. And I'll talk to him again. But it's just like, when you're in radio, or if you're in business, or if you're in education, or if you're in flowers, or if you're into marketing, or if you're a hairdresser, you need to talk your language as somebody that understands what you do. And David is one of those people, when I get stuck because of the career changes or the opportunities that have changed, because FM, AM, what they call terrestrial change, when the internet came about with the YouTube and the digital marketing on Instagram and Facebook. And we have to keep up with all the changes. And David's had to keep up. And I hit bottom about 9 months ago. And who did I reach out to first? I said, David, I need some help. Well, I don't know what to do. He got me involved with some advertising. We started connecting again. I started running ideas by him. No, that won't work. No, come here. No, I'm not doing that. All of a sudden I started listening again, and I took some chances. I did. I showed up. I took a brave step, as you said.
That was the key. That was to me one of the bravest things anybody can do, because you had no guarantees. You didn't know where it was going to lead. It cost you a few bucks to buy a plane ticket and a hotel room.
Yep.
And you didn't know if you're going to get anything out of it.
I even got I got a speeding ticket. I did. I just got a ticket in the mail. I hit a red light 2 minutes after I left LaGuardia. I didn't know where I was, and I missed whatever. But you know what? You are the inspiration. I would not have made it because I saw the ads for the conference. I've always wanted to go through the years. I was always afraid to talk to them because I'm out here looking up at you guys on this pedestal. I've known about Talker since I was at CRN in late 90s.
Yeah.
I asked for the door to be open and he wouldn't open it, but that doesn't matter. And it's always like they say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. It may have taken this long for a certain reason, or the market's ready for me again, or whatever. But David, you were my inspiration. You are the one I'm grateful for. You're the one that got me there. I mean, yes, I took the advice. I sat on it, thought about it. I said no. And then he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Showed up, I'm so happy. I did it. It's because of you, David.
I appreciate hearing that, but what it does, it confirms to me that we're meant to do something, it doesn't mean it's always going to work. And when I look at my career, I've had, I don't know how many jobs I've had. I know I've lived in 12 different states. I've worked at, I think, 20 radio stations and networks as well. And none of those jobs lasted forever. I did not know when I started out, as most people don't know, that this job's not going to last. No matter what you're doing, no matter whether you're performing well, poorly, somewhere in the middle, that's somebody else to judge, and they're just a person who judges that. But I did learn that no job is going to last forever. Something is going to change. It doesn't mean it's necessarily my fault, although there were a couple of times where I look back and I go,
I'm
I
not
don't think I
perfect.
handled that.
I upset people all the time, and
Yeah,
even those,
that's
you know,
okay. But I found that when I was hired to do a job, which meant changing, I was hired to change something that wasn't working. So when I changed what I thought needed to be changed,
for that station, you
it
mean for them as to why they
many
wanted you?
stations, it displeased them that I was undoing what they had built, and I ended up getting fired. When you end up getting fired, you can't help but think to yourself, maybe I can't do this anymore, or maybe the magic is gone if it's magic that's making me do it. I didn't understand. And you go through a period of what
Doubt.
else could I do? Because I obviously can't hold a job. I can't that, and then out of nowhere, the phone rings and it says, "Hey, are you available? We could sure use somebody like you." And it's somebody you don't even know.
Right.
So I learned that just keep going for it. And then when you get knocked off the pedestal, and you will,
And I have, and you have, and we all have. It's
yeah,
arts, it's
just
creativity, it's
keep
any
doing it.
business.
Just keep doing it. If this radio station that said we'll do anything to have you suddenly says you've done the job, you've done it really well. I had one station that I wasn't looking for a job. I was actually happy where I was working. And they called and they said it was one of the biggest stations in the country. And I said, I'm really flattered, but I'm not looking for a job. Why would you call me? And he said, because everybody who comes in for the job asked me, is David Bernstein up for this job? So I figured I better figure out who you are and call you. So I thanked him. I felt great. I turned him down. I said, I'm a family guy. I don't want to pick up my wife and my 3 babies and move on. And I'm happy here. And they kept calling, and it was finally, what do we have to do to get you here? Name your deal. So I named what I thought was impossible for them. And they called me back a week later and said, you got it. Well, I'm a guy of integrity. I said to my wife, I never should have answered the question, what does it take to get you here? But I answered it, and they met what I asked for.
Careful what you
I
ask
have to
for.
go.
Careful
I
what you
have
ask
to
for. You
go.
might get it.
It's now it's my name. Now it's my integrity. So I have to take the job. So I took the job. And they said, your goal is to get this station into the top 10 in the market.
Can I ask which
Well,
station that was?
yes, it was WBZ in Boston.
Wow. Okay.
And I took the job. The station was like, I don't know, number 14 or 15 or 13 or something like that. They said, get us into the top 10.
For those listening that don't understand radio talk, let me just interrupt you. Everything's rated, just like in TV. There's Arbitron, right, and there's all the different ways to scale and find. Is it this music? Is it that talk show? What's the market? Everything's got numbers and ratings, which relates to advertising and people with demographics. It's very it's business, which I learned the hard way. It's not just getting behind the mic. You got to have a producer and a screener, and you got to pay, or you've got to get the sponsors, and you've got all the back end stuff. You don't just sit down and think this is it. It doesn't work that way. David made that station go from below a certain number. Go on, tell the story, because you worked it.
That's the number we ended up at. We went to number one in a major market It was my first major market job. I had other program director jobs along the way. It was my first major market job, and the station became such a monster number one that they walked into my office one day and said, "You better go out and find a job because we're letting you go."
Because you're done.
And I went, well, that's what I went. I went, oh, that's very, you guys got a great sense of humor. He went, no, 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 David, I'm really serious. You really need to go out and find it. I'll
Sorry,
give
we
you
don't
a
need you
month.
anymore.
I'll give you a month or so to find a job, but I don't need you anymore. I don't need you. I don't need your salary. The place is doing greater than we ever dreamed it
Had the
could.
family already
So
been
good luck to you.
relocated? Did you relocate the family?
I bought a house. I brought a 7-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 1-month-old.
Oh,
It
geez.
was a just a challenge, and I had to sell a house, and I had to buy a house, and I didn't know the area very well, and I had to figure out where does it make sense to live, and where can where will I have enough money to buy a big enough house to accommodate these 3 kids, and
So spiritually, let's bring it into the topic. We're talking about media. We're talking about society. We're talking about communication. People's lives, all of us, everybody in that room at the Hofstra University was a gorgeous campus. And once I found the area, everybody came from somewhere to get there, right? So here's a bunch of people
yes,
scrambling from the whole country to go to that room because of this convention. And we're all in radio at some point, whether you're a publicist, a talker, a teacher, a show host, somebody looking for a new job, someone that's been fired. What's his name? Just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I read it last night. It was on one of the panels. I mean, I keep in touch, but I never paid attention to the names because I wasn't that close. I only know the LA market. But all of a sudden, I feel like, oh, now I know who that is. He was on that panel. He was talking about this. But all these people came together. We had lunch. We said hello. We exchanged information. Then we all get back on a plane or a car and we disperse. But there's an experience. But a lot of people may not have the job. Some people are still looking for a job. Some people are looking to grow. Some people own a station. David, you went through that, and everybody else. We all have spilkus, which in Jewish or Hebrew means like, we're antsy and we don't know what to do. And how do we handle it? How do we handle it? And yeah, you just do the best you can. And that's where faith comes in. And that's where you just somehow put one foot in front of the other, even though you had to deal with it. But what happened next after Boston?
well,
Somehow you had another bridge.
I got another bridge. I was offered a job with CBS, which meant moving to Minneapolis, which I didn't want to do. I was willing to do it, but I didn't want to do it. And I got lucky. I got a call from the number 2 station in Boston in that format. And they asked me if I actually, you know what? I take that back. I called them. They didn't know that I was being released from WBZ. So
Were they all talk or music? Was it talk, music? What were the format?
It was talk. It was talk, and it was the number 1 talk station in the market. I made WBZ the number 1 news and talk station.
Oh, okay.
So I knew if I don't find another job in Boston, I'm going to have to move to Minneapolis. And as nice as it would be to work for CBS, I didn't want to do it there. My whole family is from the Northeast. So I thought, let me call this station, WRKO, and just
it's huge.
Say hello. So I called him up. We work in the same market. We work in the same line of work. We work in the same industry. Let's get together one night, have a cup of coffee or have a dinner or whatever. Agreeable to that. So we went out, and he asked me, he said, so like, you happy where you are? And I said, it's not a question of am I happy, because I like what I do and I'm thrilled with the results of what I do, but news is very repetitive. And after a while, the sameness I think it's starting to zap my creativity. And I want to reach out. I don't want to give up what I have, even though I was already told I don't have it anymore.
Oh, so you didn't
But
tell
nobody
them in
knew.
the interview? You didn't mention that you were being like, oh, you played it
No, I
smart.
said the one thing that could entice me away from WBZ is if I have the freedom of expression, the freedom of thought, the freedom of trying something, the freedom of willingness to fail. If the ideas aren't good, but to me, life is a failure if you don't get to use your ideas. And
Uh,
that's what got him. And that's what got him. And he understood where I was coming from. And he understood that, or he saw me as somebody in need of a
intelligent,
challenge. The truth is,
intelligent.
I was in need of a job.
Yeah, but you didn't put it
I was
that
about to
way.
be out of work.
But that's your communication skills. You were able to present yourself in such a way that turned him on to see a different side of you creatively, intellectually. Obviously, if you were number one PD or however, whatever your title was at that time to get them number one and they're number two, he knew you knew something. But the way you pitched yourself came off beautifully. Then what happened? You
Then
got the
I
job.
worked. I got the job. They added a second station. Then they bought WHDH. So I had all three major stations in Boston. What? Now I'm on cloud nine. What happened? They decided to sell the company,
Oh, geez.
and everybody, all the managers got fired except me. And the reason I didn't get fired was they said, we have these stations for another 3 months. We need somebody to run them. And I said, so if you're not firing me, maybe that means there's a chance for me to stay on with the company because I don't want to have to move again. They said, sure. So I stayed on for the 3 months, did everything I could do to make those stations win. They did win. But at the end of the 3 months, when the stations were sold, they said, thank you, bye-bye. And
That
you're
was it.
done.
So the new
So
people
now,
didn't inherit you. Okay.
correct. So now I'm out of work and there's no place to turn. So I decided, well, I'm going to go back to New York. I discussed it with Debbie. Let's go back to New York since that's home base for us. Our parents are there, our family is there, all our college friends are there, and we're still
Your
close
life,
with
it's
all our
your
college
home. It's
friends.
you. Yeah, it's you.
Right, right. And and now my parents and her parents are grandparents. So we thought that's the right place to go. And I took a job that was it wasn't at a race. The only time I ever worked in a place that wasn't a radio station or radio network. And I took a job at a syndication company and it wasn't working out. And I knew it wasn't working out. I could feel it wasn't working out. I wasn't getting along. I couldn't do what the owner
You
wanted
wanted to.
me to
Okay.
do because he built his own business, built a great business, by the way, decided it needed modernization, hired me for that, and then wouldn't let me do
What you
what
wanted to
I was
do
there to do.
because it's his.
And he was very upset with me. So I'm there now for 8 months. I'm living in New York alone because Debbie and the three babies, the three
Still in
little kids are still in
Boston.
Boston. She finally sells the house. She finally comes here to look around and finds a house. We buy the house. 2 weeks before we sign on the house, he calls me into the office and says, I don't like you. You're fired. Now,
Here you go again.
I'm stuck. I am so stuck. And when he said you're fired, I can't believe what I said to him. But I really did this, and I don't know where it came from. But he said, David, you're fired. And I looked him in the eye and I said, no, I'm not. He looked at me and he said, I said, no, I'm not. So he says, nobody's ever said that before. I said, well, I'm saying it now, and I'm saying it because I'm not fired. Let me tell you something. There's work to be done here. There are clients that need to be talked to. There's programming that has to happen. All this is in the process of coming together, and you can't stop it now. And I'm not stopping it now. So I'm not fired. I'm not quitting. I'm going to walk out now, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 8:30. And I walked out. Now I go back to my apartment on the Upper West Side that he's paying for. And I'm thinking,
oh my God.
I don't know what to do. I don't even want to tell Debbie. Get up the next morning, I get dressed, I go in, and I go in like this. I'm looking all over the place. I'm waiting for this. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. I think he was waiting to see if I had the nerve to show up, and I did. And I walked right to my office, sat down at my desk, opened up my laptop, and got busy on the phone. And he didn't know what to make of it. He was so shocked that he went, this guy's crazy. I think I'm just going to leave him alone. And I worked there for another 3 months. Debbie moved down, the kids moved into the house. I started looking around because I knew the job isn't going to last much longer. I'm here on borrowed time. I happened to see an article in one of the trade papers that mentioned the program director of WOR is leaving. And I thought to myself, that's it. That's it. It's the kind of stations I've been programming all along. I'm familiar with the station just because I listen to a lot of stations, and I think it's antiquated. It's not the kind of station I would listen to because it's more for my parents than for me. So I called, I went out at the place I was working at, the bathrooms were in the hallway. Happened to be a snowstorm the day that I discovered that. So I said, excuse, I'll be back. I'm running to the bathroom. And instead I took the elevator down 30 something flights, went out. I went out on the street where there were still phone booths on the street.
Yeah.
This was 1994.
Yeah, it's
They
our
still had
generation.
phone booths on the streets, but not the kind that close with doors.
Right.
It's just like a little stand. So I'm standing in a blizzard in just my little shirt, and I call up the radio station, and I spoke to the general manager, and I told him I would like to get together with him. He said he's already narrowed down the search to 2 people, so he doesn't want to expand the search again. I said, I totally understand that. I don't blame you. I'm just asking you to meet with me anyway. It's okay. You don't have to give me the job. I understand that I'm not going to get the job. But
just in case.
Meet with me, just meet with me. That's all I'm asking. I know I'm not going to get the job. I know you're not going to, but please meet with me. And because I did something nice when he was on a Boston trip once and wanted to stop by at my station and pitch some programming to me, which he knew I couldn't take, but I met with him anyway.
Did he remember that?
Oh yeah. I don't know if he remembered that. I'm sure I can't believe he had to remember that. I sure did, because I was meeting with somebody from New York. I was excited. So he agreed to meet with me. He agreed to have breakfast with me. So we went, we had breakfast. He, the GM, and the owner of WOR met with me for an 8 o'clock breakfast at the Millennium Hotel. And I'm not sure if my performance at breakfast, I know my performance at whatever I did at breakfast convinced him to hire me, but I'm not sure if I would have been as open as I was had it not been for the thought that you can say anything you want. You're not going to get this job. So I told him things about his radio station that weren't pleasant to hear. I did it as politely and respectfully as I could. I understand why you are so successful in doing this. But as a modern programmer, I hear things that only cater to your audience that won't bring in a new audience. Don't you want a new audience? Don't you want to get younger? I don't hear relevance in your station. And after all, radio is local. We want to hear what's going on locally. And I don't hear your local references in a relevant way. You could live in New York and yet
not know
things on your radio station that wouldn't help me in my life in New
You
York.
turned them
And he thought
around.
about that. Yeah, I told him stuff that nobody else would tell them. Because if when you want a job, you don't go in and tell somebody that their place sucks. But I did, because I'm not getting the job. So I told him it sucks. And that later that afternoon, he called me up and said,
You got the job.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm offering you the job. Who is this really? I didn't. I didn't. I wasn't trying to do it. I was just having a conversation about a business that I love and a life that I'm enjoying living, and I'm sharing it with them. It was a 2-hour breakfast. After the breakfast, we shook hands and said it was really a pleasure to talk with you, and thanks for an honest, open conversation. And that's what we did. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting a job offer, and I really didn't see it coming.
But David, it's your spirit and it's your tenacity and it's your creativity. And you took a risk, just like telling the other boss you're not leaving, but you needed to be there for 3 more months to get to this. And that's the journey that we all take. If we're lucky to see the path, right? It's like doors will open if it's meant to be. Otherwise, you knock on the door and you butt heads or you get disappointed and you're thrown under the bus. And it happens to be a lot, either whether a publisher or a station, or it had been even with marketing people. It's like, or I yell and scream because they don't get what I get. And there's a clash. Then all of a sudden you're understood. And all of a sudden you say something you think is wrong and it's right. But is it coming through you? Yeah, because the big guy in the sky sees this is David's. And from there, even
jobs that I took that turned out bad, I'm glad I had the job and I'm glad I had the experience. For example, I was working in Massachusetts. This is 10 years before I went to Boston. I was working in Worcester, Massachusetts. And the president of the company came in to me one day and said, I'm going to ask you something, and it's a serious question. A year ago, we bought a station in Orlando, and the ratings have been nowhere, abysmal. Would you go? And my immediate response was, no, we just had a baby. We just bought a house. I love where I live. And I turned him down, and I called him. I'm going to guess it was 2 days later or so. And I said, I think I gave you a hasty, unthought, unprofessional answer. I would like to readdress the question, and I would like to offer, I'll go down to Orlando and meet with the guy that I'd be working for. Maybe I was hasty in saying no. And it was for personal reasons that I think were selfish. So
you have the family, the kids, you don't want to move again. I mean,
I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to be that far away from my parents in New York and all that. But I thought I was being selfish. So I said, I'll go down to Orlando and I'll meet with Gary. So he said, great, I really appreciate you doing that. I went to Orlando. I met with Gary. I thought Gary was one of God's gifts on earth. I said, you know what? I like this guy. We're going to get something done here. And I came back and I told Debbie, I'm going to take this job. And she said, I support you 100%. And let's do it. I took the job. I went to Orlando. 3 weeks later, Gary got fired. And I don't know, I wasn't there long enough to understand why. But he got fired. And the guy who replaced him was no fan of mine. And so it was an relationship. I've lasted just under 2 years, actually 20 months. But in that 20 months, I got the radio station to get the ratings they wanted, to become a force in the market. And that opened up the next door, which was a job I dreamed of, which was in Hartford. There was I once said to Debbie, if I could get one, when we were sitting in Orlando, if there's one job I could have in the whole country, I would want to be the program director of WTIC in Hartford. If I chance that'll ever happen. And then one day that job was open.
Okay, so David, you've been on this
She found the
journey.
job in a trade paper. She was reading the trade papers. I think it was Talkers. She found the job in there that the PD was leaving, and she said, "Read this." I read it.
There
I
you
called.
go.
I said this. When I told the guy I want to come up and see you, I said, I will pay for my own flight. I do not expect you. I expect you to interview me. I hope you'll say yes, that you'll interview me. You don't have to bring me up from Florida. That's not on you. I want this job. I'm asking you for this job. I'm asking you to meet with me. That should be on my dime. I don't expect you to do anything. And I think that's one of the takeaways. Do things on your own that let other people see the value that you put on it. When I got that first program director's job in Worcester, Massachusetts at WAAF, I was the afternoon drive personality there. When the program director's job became open, I wanted that job. But I didn't walk into the GM's office and say,
Wait, say
hey,
it again. Wait, let people know, say that statement again, because you just made a serious statement on what, to let people know how you feel and what you really want. That's part of communication, of getting what you want.
Do it by what I want everybody to remember is do it by your actions. I saw a job I wanted. I was working at a radio station. I was on every afternoon from 3 to 7.
There's a new opportunity and you went on it. You let people know who you are, David. We're running out of time.
But I didn't. Okay, let me just finish.
Yeah, because I want to take a few more things. Yeah. Oh, there is.
I wanted the job. So instead of just walking down the hallway into his office and having a chat with him about it, I went to FedEx and I sent my broadcast tape and resume to him for $20 when I could have just handed it to him in the hallway. He said, you didn't have to do that. You could have just handed it to me. I said, no, Steve, I want you to remember how much it means to me for us to talk. And I thought I'd get your attention if I send it to you FedEx. That was worth $20 to me.
Yes, and you got the job.
And I got the job, yeah.
You know, and your life went on and on. I want to just switch into, I mean, you then became program director. You were the head of Air America. You're now a teacher on a campus, and people know your name. You know, you've been around forever, but you're not the type of person that just waited for it to happen. You helped make it happen because you were tenacious enough. You might have been depressed. You might have been in bed an extra day or two. You might have moped around the house, cursed, oh my God, we're never going to eat and drive or move or blah, blah. And you go through all these emotions and you get freaky and you get scared. I've been through it when I was in the plane crash. I couldn't go back to healthcare and all these psychic stuff were happening. Who's going to listen? There was no internet back then. Like you and I didn't grow up with all this stuff. So when you're talking about phone booths, we didn't have the internet till 1996. You couldn't just email him a PDF file with your resume. I understand. I did something similar. There was a guy at William Morris, I think, one of the big talent agencies. And I met his father at a park when I was walking dogs. He told me about his son who went to Michigan. I thought, oh, that's an easy in. And I wanted to have a meeting with him. And I finally got the meeting with him. And I wanted to pitch my scripts. And I saw things about the University of Michigan. And I knew that he was into cooking and he loved baking. And he had like a collection of toasters. So after I left, I bought a toaster. And I had it delivered to him. Same as you want to leave an impact sometimes. He saw the toaster. I never got picked up, but I gave him a toaster because I creatively wanted to like hit him over the head, like, don't forget me, you know. And sometimes you have to do that, whether it's the right job or the right relationship. We go into it with a feeling. You have been super successful. You're super inspirational. Your students love you. Your kids love you. Your wife loves you. Your people love you. I love you. Everybody adores David. But you never gave up. You never gave up. You know, you didn't get out of line. You went up and down the roller coaster like all of us, right?
I tell my students, and I know this is antithetical, and it's counterintuitive, but I never had a plan B. And there's a reason for that. If I had so many things went wrong on my life of plan A that at any moment, if I had a plan B, I would have taken it. and I would have been really sorry that I did.
I have felt that too, where you think, all right, I'm not going to do this, not going to do that. Radio. When I was on my last terrestrial big station, which was CBS owned at the time, which folded in 2009, and then 3 weeks later, my mother dropped dead, and I had my infomercial going, so I lost the stage, my show, my mom, then the TV show on the candles, which I want to touch upon for just a moment. I couldn't function. I didn't have a husband. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what to do, where to go, how to knock on doors. Talk radio was closing, and I'm like, well, what do I do, and what do I do? And then I got into the internet stuff, or I found my way. But then I got back in touch with David through the years. We've stayed in touch, and we have mutual contacts. But in the last year, I decided I want back in. I didn't know what to do. So I've gone through my tumbleweed. You go through your tumbleweed. We go up and down, but it's still in me. I look, should I try this? Should I try that? I don't like this. This didn't work for me. It's not monetizing. It's not fulfilling. It's whatever. And then I just put it out there. Doors are opening again, even though it's been 15 years since I was at that level. But I have other experiences like with you, and you still are here with all those experience. Speaking of the candles and readings for just a moment, your brother-in-law was sick at one point. And David I'd sent some wicks of wisdom to the family to help. And I think it helped him prolong a little bit of his suffering from what I remember.
It did.
Saved him.
It didn't save him. He had lymphoma. But it did give him.
He was more comfortable.
Joy he needed for the remaining year of his life. And I would have to say it was a good year. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but sooner or later, we're all going to meet that fate.
Yeah.
So you just want your time here to have value, and his did. And there's nothing better than that.
And your radio career has had value. Look at the different lives you've changed, the people you've hit over the head to say, it may be your station, but screw you because it needs to be done this way. And that's where I get in trouble when I put my foot in my mouth. Michael heard it the other day on the phone. He goes, I don't like that part of you. I said, well, that's who I am. I overreact. But when I know I'm right and you know you're right, when you know you're right, you can't have someone tell you no, because inside you're going, yes. Or you're saying,
your body doesn't accept the no.
No, because you know.
You intellectually understand.
But that's your soul speaking. That's the spirit of you.
I did not think of an answer when he said, David, you're fired.
No.
What came out of me was, no, I'm not. I didn't plan it.
Yeah. And you made a career, and your kids are grown, and everybody, you did it. And when you told me when Debbie was in college and you were out in another state, and I'm like, oh my God. And I've heard these stories before when one goes to law school and the wife's in New York and he's at Michigan because my attorney did that. We hear these stories. You wonder, how are you going to do it? Love conquers all. You got a passion, you go for it, people. You don't stop. Even though people say no, you do it anyway. Guilt will come from feeling bad. You just do it. My goal was to be a singer-songwriter. I let people, especially my mom, say no. But I ended up in media. I have loved helping people. My thing isn't yes, I became a broadcaster. I learned technique thanks to people like you and other people in the industry that had real training. I learned real broadcasting, but I take it to another step. Not everybody believes in what I do, but I like helping. You're a helper. You got the job done that a station needed success. They found you because you had the insight or the intuition or the know-how to do what they couldn't with their vision. But I know what it's like to be done, but you're not done, David. And people, this man has conquered cancer himself, and he's here. He's healthy. He keeps going. We have challenges. We've got about 5 minutes left. We have challenges in life, but David is proving you just say what you mean and feel. And if you're just yourself and you show up, someone's going to accept you, and the others, you can have 100 saying, screw you, don't like her. But that one's going to see the diamond in the rough or the gemstone. And you go on from there. It's finding your path.
And understanding the pattern. Remember, I told you I got fired from my college radio station, and that was my dream. Yeah. So and he told me, I'm doing you a favor. You're never going to work in radio, so I'm doing you a favor. I'm kicking you out now.
Did you ever go back and tell him? Did you ever get in touch with him to tell him? Did you ever find him to say, look where I am after 20 years?
I did find him and chose not to say anything. I felt that I had nothing to gain by saying, I told you so.
Look at me now.
I was just proud that I'm in the business. I was able to overcome what he perceived as no talent, and whether it was talent or whether I ever had any talent or not, I don't. It's not for me to judge. It's for me to
you were driven
try to do my
part
best
of your soul,
and let somebody else judge it.
But it's also part of your being. You got into this lifetime 73 years ago. You entered this body in this family, the Bernstein family, but that soul from other generations of past lives, because we're all reincarnated, something brought you into communication or technology or radio. Something gave you that drive, that passion. A lot of people can't figure it out, and they're calling me at the age of 40, 50, 60. What am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? And I have to take them inside to redirect. You somehow had a passion and you didn't give up, and your wife didn't give up on you. A lot of people's spouses walk in divorce because, oh, my husband can't get it together. I moved too much.
She should have dumped me during the honeymoon, because I'll tell you, you know what happened?
No, I wasn't there.
I got a phone call halfway through our honeymoon. Hey, David, can you drive 3 hours and do a fill-in afternoon drive shift? And I said, sure. And I said, and I left Debbie in the middle of our honeymoon. Go do a radio show. I really wanted to do it.
She knew then what she was going to be in for the rest of her life. And God bless. How many years married now? 49 years. We're at the 4-minute mark. So let's start wrapping this up. This is David Bernstein, one of the veterans of the radio industry. People, every industry has their stories, whether it's aeronautics or if it's aviation or if it's food or if it's clothing. This happens to be broadcasting, it's communication, it's media. And we have changed, like everybody, where we have to be online with TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and competing with all the media outlets out there. And everybody's got a channel and everybody streams. It's harder to find your niche. The terrestrial radio, which is AM, FM, was then replaced with satellite, which then got replaced or competing with internet. It's the evolution. You know, we were at this convention, even talking about taking out AM radios from cars, but we need it because, there's so much that people don't know. You just sit down, push a button. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It's people like you that make people like me want more. And because of you, I flew to New York. I saw I love Long Island. I could see myself moving there. But it was comfortable. It was comfortable. But
too bad I don't do real estate. I tell you.
It's actually more affordable there than it is here where I was. It's, LA's hard. LA's tough. LA's tough. I haven't been to New Jersey, except I was in Teaneck once on my way from Michigan to Connecticut when I was a student. That's my only time in New Jersey. One day I'll get there. But we're at the end of the show. David, what would be your final inspirational words to somebody that wants, maybe somebody's dreaming about radio and a broadcast career in today's market, or maybe somebody's stuck. I don't really like what I'm studying on college. Maybe I should change majors. Whatever, somebody's changing midlife at 40 or 50, they want out of something. What's the message about work, life, who you are?
I'm going to give it to you. I hope this surprises you and whoever's tuning into this. Stop caring so much. Stop worrying about other people. Stop worrying about, what if I don't get that job? What if I get that job but then I get fired from that job? All that garbage is going to happen. Stop worrying about it. Then move on. Then do your next thing. There will be a next thing. There will be a next thing. So stop fretting about all the things that aren't happening. And stop caring so much. Go out and do your thing.
Thank you, David Bernstein. My friend David Bernstein for over 20 years in the radio industry because of a friend named Mark that took me to meet David. We drove 3.5, 5 hours to go meet and blah, blah, blah. And friendships evolve if it's meant to be, people. Nothing's by accident. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. David, you stay backstage. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to close out the show. I hope it's inspired you as it's inspired me. He's always been an inspiring person to me. So we had inspirers and influencers before it became a ghost term online, people. There's always somebody that can open the door or help you see things that you can't see for yourself. If you want more information on me, you'll see all that at the end of the broadcast. That's David Bernstein, who's spent 50 years in radio. He loves it. And remember, he got fired, he fell down, he got back up. Same with me. I was in a plane crash, lost the health industry jobs. I didn't know where to go. I just, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Doors opened. I got led into the psychic stuff, which I fought for 12 years, ended up on radio. Here we are 30 years later, and you just talked to one of the veterans along with me. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. Until tomorrow, this is Psychic Solutions Podcast. Have a good day.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.